Welcome to the future of learning. Earlier today, I set a survey asking you, the audience, and the Twitterverse out there, what is the future of learning? Because you are all experts, and therefore I'm going to use the wisdom of the crowds to come up with a definitive answer. And if you can go, waving at the back. Oh. Run too fast, have I? How do I get hold of them? Is Frank up there? Okay. And as you can see, everybody almost had a different answer. Okay. I asked another question. If we go to the next slide. What will change learning? Social learning was a bit of a high, but again, no single definitive answer. The third one was, what is going to stop or not allow learning to change? Lots of things. It's not one thing. And that's going to be part of what I'm going to be talking about, because I'm not going to be able to give you a definitive answer. So if we can go back. The future. Well, let's just take a step back. Let's go back in time. My college, the term starts in September. For you, and many of you in HE, your term starts in October. Why? Because we need to get the harvesting. Okay. Put your hand up if you own a combine harvester. We cannot change if we're not willing to kind of break apart some of those best laid down plans and structures that we have in place. And sometimes we forget why we have them in place. This is a classroom from 1872. Rows of desks, rows of chairs, a bit of slate, a bit of chalk. Last week, I went into my college and photographed a classroom. Rows of chairs, electronic slate. Okay, right. Maybe I need to just combine old desks with computer and we'll be fine. Though we may want to change, though we may want to introduce social media, though we may want to introduce Web 2, if we still have the structures, the ideas and concepts that are embedded in the past, all we're going to do is just tweak. We're not going to change. A large computer suite. How many people have a classroom like this? Rows and rows. There we go, a few hands going up. You don't like this audience participation, do you? People are asking. I mean, there's a guy here down at the front. I'm not quite sure what he's doing. He's not listening to me. Hello. Somebody's saying, I've seen this one before. And there's some guy at the back wanting to ask a question. Learning takes place in my institution. But some of these kind of questions that kind of come up is, you know, there's a student with a laptop. What's the lecturer thinking? What's the student thinking? We often put in rules and regulations that stop innovation or experimentation. You know, sorry, you're not allowed to use my laptop because it hasn't been pack tested. You're not allowed to use a USB stick because of viruses. In other words, we put in constraints and tell people what they cannot do rather than provide them with solutions. Just a few more pictures. This, to me, is innovation in one respect. An interactive whiteboard in the dance studio with students watching YouTube. Now, for some of you, that's old hat. But in FE, this can often be seen as, whoa, that's a bit dangerous. But it's just showing how change can take place, looking at different kinds of learning. So what is the future? Is it all going to be these kind of weird things that you put on your head, constantly tagged into the net? For me, no. Because you use tools like phones and games in order to make your life easier. In other words, we already use mobile technologies, the web, for information, entertainment, and communication. I had a real challenge yesterday. I was in Regent Street. I was just been to the Apple store, and I decided to phone my children to say goodnight. And O2 wasn't working. I had to use a red telephone box. I haven't done that for about 10 years. They still smell. I love this picture because there's an element of trust. I know who here charged their laptop up and left it? You know, this guy's got his laptop plugged in and he's left his coffee there. I'm sure that's going to go. I like this picture of one of my students. It's in the cafe area. The library is literally next door, so he's actually almost sitting next door to the library. But he's doing his assignment on his computer using our student wireless network while drinking, I think it was a mocha, and that small black device is a DVD player. So he's got a DVD playing at the same time. I stopped him and said, well, you know, just asked him and said, this is because this is how I want to learn. This is where I want to learn, and this is what I want to do while I'm learning. And that's what he said he wanted to do. But why do we always need to put learning in an institution? People learn all the time. How many people here, for example, read a book or used a laptop or wrote something on the train here? You were learning. How can we facilitate that learning process for all our learners? Just to kind of think, is this mobile learning? Some people are nodding. To me, this is mobile learning because it's about the mobility of the learner choosing where and when she wants to learn. Yes, she's on a sofa, yes, she's at home, and yes, she's tied to a power supply. But she's making that choice about where she wants to learn. If she wanted to do it on a bus, on an iPod, she could do that too. Or in a coffee shop. Doesn't mean that anywhere, anytime, any place learning has to be individual learning. Because our learners already get into groups and collaborate and share. They may do it at home, they may do it in a coffee shop, they may do it down the pub. But by giving them access to learning where and when they want to, it should make learning easier and better. I think part of the problem that we have, especially with the e-learning world, is we put things into boxes. We have M-learning, mobile learning, E-learning, T-learning, Z-learning, Y-learning, Q-learning, F-learning, G-learning. And we say this, and people often say, well, I don't need to do that because I'm in this box. We need to start blurring those boxes and just start to talk about learning. So, before we start talking about learning, one of the things is that staff and learners need to have a better understanding of the potential of technology. So therefore, they can be able to apply it to their learning processes. So I'm just going to talk about some of the technologies that I think are going to start to make a real difference in the next 5 to 10 years. And the first one is audio. We have a great tradition of audio, or oral in teaching.
Look, big tiger, you got spear.
We've been using it for years. Folk stories, tales, telling stories. And then suddenly we ask people to read stuff. How many people here, well, I suspect some of you here, who here listens to podcasts? Fair few of you. How many people here provide students with audio feedback? A few, one over there. How many here allow their students to submit assessed evidence as audio? And a few more. But of course, not all of us like listening to audio. Some of us like watching stuff. And who here's got a camera phone? Okay. Who here has got a phone that doesn't have a camera? We quite like these video cameras. I bought 150 of them. And one of the reasons we like them is because I can do this. You know, it's waterproof to 1.5 meters. It means it will work in plastering environments, it will work in plumbing environments, it will work in the kitchen. Just nobody drink it afterwards. But video, we talk about, how many people here remember the launch of Channel 4? Okay, keep your hands up if you remember the launch of ITV. How many here remember the launch of television? We have some people who say, you know, that video is going to destroy learning. Those are the same people who said that television was going to kill radio. Those are the same people who said radio was going to kill newspapers. They were the same people who said that newspapers were going to kill books. They were the same people who said books were going to kill folk stories. We always have our skeptics who worry about the impact that a new technology will have on society. But we have television, we have radio, we have newspapers. Who here has read a book this year? Talking of books, I'm hoping this is the right one. Oh, no, not books yet, sorry. Wrong slides in the wrong order. What do all these four have in common? Sat-nav, maps, iPhone, Nokia N800. Not quite maps, but near enough. GPS, location-based learning. I have a video camera that lets me know where I am. It has maps on it. I could use it as a satellite navigation system and film myself as I drive. But the ability to be able to add location data, or geodata to use the jargon, to content, to learning, to activities, suddenly adds a whole new dimension. Learners can go out and track where they've been so they can retrack at a later date. It means we can get them out of the classroom. I think GPS is going to make a huge difference to the way that learners undertake learning. It's already making a difference to the way that we already... Okay, who here has a sat-nav? Okay, that's fine. Who here has used the AA for the route planner? How many people still sit down with one of those big road atlases that you get for $4.99 from the motorway services? Yeah, you're still doing it. Okay, you haven't advanced. When I joined Gloucestershire College, I come back from an e-learning background, and one of the things they did was they put me in charge of the libraries, which was, for some was like, he's going to burn all the books. No. I actually like books, which surprises some people. I love the feel of paper. I love the ability to be able to read it. But e-books and devices such as this, the Sony eBook Reader, I'm not going to drop that one in the water. This is going to change the way that our learners learn. This is my prediction, and you can quote me on it when I get it wrong. Why is it going to change things? Well, anybody know what this is? Yeah, you probably all got one of these. Okay. An iPod. When the iPod first came out, this is actually a fourth generation one, but this is not that old. When the iPod first came out, people said, do you know, that's a pile of rubbish. You know, because it was. It was highly expensive. You could store at least 12 songs on there, or something along those kind of lines, and things. But think about where it is today. How many people here have an iPhone or an iPod Touch or an iPod Nano, iPod Shuffle, iPod Classic? Anyone here not have an iPod? Ooh, you all got creative Zens? The thing is, if I'm an English literature student studying Macbeth, okay, Hubble, Bubble, Toil and Trouble and all that, the advantage of this is, as well as the paper version, I can have the entire works of Shakespeare on this. And I can have every single assignment, handout, resource available as a PDF in my hand. I can read War and Peace on this 5 times before the battery runs out. I haven't done it once yet. Venice. We've already had an Italian today. But why Venice? Why have I got a lovely picture of Venice from Flickr? If I said Norwich, you wouldn't think of so romantically. But the reason why I'm talking about Venice is connectivity. To be honest, I'm surprised and pleased that the Wi-Fi network here actually works. Because I did bring this with me, which is my MiFi, which is my personal wireless network, allows 5 devices to connect, so I immediately make 4 friends. But, you know, we talk about connectivity. For someone like Norwich or Venice, where you've got these citywide wireless networks, it's great. Or if you're in Gloucester or Bristol, where you get good 3G, it's great. But we have students who are in the Forest of Dean who are still a bit wary of electricity. Talking of power, Here is my solution to the iPhone battery problem. It's very simple. You have two. The thing is, battery technology has moved along rapidly. The problem is what our devices do has moved along faster, so they don't last as long. And people probably say, well, I had a telephone that used to last all week before charges. I have an iPhone, and I have to charge it up in the middle of the day. Now, the thing is, this has got to change if you've got to be able to do it. Where are the power sockets in these seats? Where is the ability for students to be able to charge things up in secure places in your institution? We've got to start thinking about how we can provide students with that kind of power. Penknife. Why a penknife? One question I always get asked is, what is the one device that does everything? The answer is a penknife. How many people here use a penknife for opening a bottle of wine? How many people here use a penknife for slicing chorizo sausage? How many, it's a great tool, but basically specialist tools are sometimes better and having a wide range of things. It's partly the reason why I do have an iPhone and an iPod. Change. We need to change. There have been books, and you can do your MBA on management of change. And we often talk about we've got to go from point A to point B, from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. The problem is, what happens if there's a step missing? What happens if the step is broken? And more importantly, it just sometimes feels like a never-ending series of steps, and we're never going to get there. The key is, if we want to change, if we want to make learning more inclusive, we want to improve learning, we want to expand learning, we want to widen participation, we want to enable learning to happen at a time and place to suit the learner, we want to increase achievement, we want to increase success, institutions need to become more responsive to the needs of a wider variety of learners. It's October. You can now not start our course at my college until next September. Great. Or February. We need to start focusing on not the end product, but the activity that gets us to that end product. It's not just about writing an essay, it's about that process that we get to in order to get that essay. We need to think about flexibility of both delivery, but also of assessment. There's no point in us all being with fancy cameras and audio podcasts if all we want our students to do is to sit down for 3 hours and write 4 essays. We need to start thinking about assessment. We've got to start sharing not just content, but also what we do, the context, the design, the delivery. I love the word collaboration because it's such a negative word in some respects. If you go back to World War II and you were a collaborator, you didn't have a very good future. But we are talking about learners collaborating. To be honest, they do it already. They use the phone, they meet down the pub, they use instant messaging, they use Facebook, they're using these tools already. Let's facilitate that and make it easier. Innovation, one of the key things about innovation is things can go wrong. And that's why some people and some organisations are scared of innovating. We need to be able to reward experimentation, to be able to try new things. I have a drawer full of iPod Nanos that nobody wants to use in my college because we experimented. Assessment. I remember asking a question once or saying, what is the point of doing all this if we keep our assessment methods the same? And the examining boards say, we've got to do this. We've got to get them to write essays. We've got to get them to do this. Do you know why the examining boards say that? It's because we say that that's what we want. Hold on. Who's going to change the assessment model? It's not going to be the examining boards. It's not going to be us. It's not going to be the learners. So nothing will change. The key for me is changing the culture of your organisation. And that's easier said than done, but it can be done. Changing the way that people think, changing the way that people work, changing the way that learners think, and changing the way that learners learn. Start thinking about solutions. No, 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 can't do that, you can't do this. Can we do this? No. A good example was, can I have an iPhone, please, Mr. Director of IT Services? No, we're with Vodafone. Okay. Can I have an iPhone? We're with Vodafone. Please? We're with Vodafone. Fine. What did I do? I gave an iPod Touch to my principal with Bob Dylan on. He liked it so much, he asked the Director of IT Services for an iPhone. Yay, success. but that's not a real solution. So what is the future? It's these. It's them. It's him. It's him. It's... Don't drive while texting. They must be in first class. They've got legroom. You know, it's not about age. It's not about capability. It's about learners. Thank you.